How did you start out with comics?
Oh, with comics. It was somewhere like post high school. Through high school, I was really obsessed with animation, and near the end of my high school years, I got really disillusioned with animation because I thought I was going to end up, in the best case scenario, at somewhere like Walt Disney, you know, animating snowflakes or something awful like that. And what I really wanted was the, you know, full control of this story, and that's about the same time I rediscovered comics. And right away, I just started making homemade comics, drawing them and photocopying them. And first comic show I went to, I met other people who were doing the same thing and got connected to a distribution system. So we were all making our little homemade mini comics.
How many years ago was that?
I was like, it's it was like 9 years ago. Yeah. And then that's how I met my publisher, my future American publisher. He sent me a letter because he had an anthology he was doing. He was just starting and he had a pretty low-end sort of operation too. And I looked through it, it's like there's some good stuff, like, oh cool, I'd love to contribute to this anthology, and then there's some real crappy stuff too, so I just kind of tossed it aside and ignored it until I moved from Wisconsin to Oregon to Portland. And then I was really lonely, I had no friends, so I found his information and looked him up. And then, you know, we started hanging out, and right away he said he published my work, and he was just getting started as a publisher, I was just getting started as a cartoonist, and just the right timing.
Wie kommt eigentlich dann auch so ein Format von Comics zu sein? Ich meine, das ist ja nicht normal, dass man gerade, normalerweise sind es vielleicht 200 Seiten, aber das ist ja schon eine halbe Bibel.
Because your book half a Bible, and she asks why it's possible that you draw so many pages. Mostly it's only 200 pages, and it's a thick book, but you have 600 pages. And was there any intention to do such so many pages?
Yeah, I wanted it to be big because I wanted the pacing to be, you know, maybe it sounds pretentious to say novelistic, but I wanted, you know, to just take my time and have it be breathable and focus on small details. And so I thought it'd be about 300 pages. It just ended up being double that. And, but yeah, mostly I think it's just like to tell the kind of, you know, tell the story the way I like to tell it. I make those pages, sort of like manga, I guess, my rhythm, my pacing.
Did you have an outline before you started?
Yeah,
So you knew at some point.
yeah, no, before I started the final art, I knew it would be 600 pages.
Was there a point where you were kind of near the end where you realized, you know, I'm going to wrap this up, or the things you deleted as you got further into the page count? Like, if you looked at your outline, you were only 30% of the way through when you were at page 400. Did you change it? Oh, no, this is serious.
No.
Did it affect?
Well, I had a long editing process before I started the final art. I spent almost a year doing just writing the book. Like, it was a detailed thumbnails.
Right.
But like, I wrote the whole thing. And then I went back and took out 100 pages and added 100 new pages, and then the only thing that wasn't working was the end, and I was like, oh, I'll just go start drawing it. And then I was drawing it until I got back to that spot at the end, and I had to write the last chapter in real time. And it was happening in real time too. Everything else is kind of the past, but the last chapter is pretty much what was going on in my life at that moment. So, I couldn't have written it earlier.
How many pages did you do on X-Men?
No, at least 600, I'm sure.
Yeah.
A long time ago, man. I think I did maybe 23 issues, 23 times. Yeah, 480, 500. There are a lot of characters. Yeah, so, kind of double.
Will you, in the near future, doing such works again, like 600 pages or 800 pages?
Yeah, the next one's at least 600 pages.
But what does your publisher say to that?
It's doing well for them, so they can't complain. I'll take it to someone else if they don't want it.
Okay.
Were you overwhelmed by your success?
Yeah, I don't think about it too much, so. But yeah, sure. sure, it's crazy. Little country boy from Wisconsin.
But it's still independent though. Didn't you dream going mainstream and doing like X-Men or Spider-Man or anything else? Because everybody, I guess, dreams of that. And
No, I hate working with other people's characters. I don't know. And I've tried to do it a few times, collaborating with other writers. I tried it with Fantastic Four, and I couldn't do it, so I just did the covers instead. I tried it recently with Mike Allred too.
You wrote some Fantastic Four?
No, with this Unstable Molecules of James Stern wrote it, and I was, hired to be the penciler inker, and I gave it a try, and I can't do it. I'm too.
So you just
I have my own stories I want to tell. Yeah, so like okay, covers. There you go. Yeah.
something else. The difference between Goodbye Chunky Rice and Blankets, because the one is really cartoony and the other one is like almost real life way.
Well, I
Where they change.
just got sick of my, older drawings. I got sick of drawing these round-headed, cutesy animals and real slick brush line. And so, I just had to break out and do something new.
So it's all gonna be like Blanket style from now. Let's say
No, next
real
book will
life.
be a bit different too.
Do you feel any pressure to, now that this book has been so successful, to do something similar?
No, because I wrote out an outline, and one of my friends read the outline, and after he finished reading it, he said, there's not one marketable idea in this entire outline. And I said, yeah, perfect.
Did you ever do, will you do personal autobiographical story?
I don't know. But you know what? I was going to ask, does everyone understand when we're talking? Yeah. I love this country. Just say what I want. What was the question?
Autobiographical.
No.
Personal story.
Yeah, okay.
Aren't you ready?
No, not really. No. Yeah, sure.
Why do you like
Yeah, why
this?
not? Yeah. No, I don't know. There's a part of me that I admire what Craig does. There's a part of me that doesn't want to share my life with anyone else, and not that I'm scared or anything. It's just I don't consider it very private. So even to the extent that people come up to me at a show and know my kids' names and they've never met my kids before, I don't know. It's a little strange, and so. I think it's whenever you write something more personal, people. I just met a writer in Vienna whose book I liked, and now that I'm rereading the book, I'm thinking about him as I'm reading it. I start thinking weird things about. Not weird, but I'm reading a lot more into it than I should, and so I guess my fear is if I do something autobiographical or something based on my life, you would read it and know too much about me. I don't know, That said, I think I don't envision myself drawing characters I liked as a kid forever. So there will definitely be a day when I do more, newly created characters, new original characters. They might not be superheroes, but there might be some fantastical or science fiction element to it. Something that is something more geared toward adults rather than people that just like to see superheroes fight. Maybe.
But still fiction. That's your area.
Yeah. No, I toyed around with doing a comic book based on sort of my father's life and his father's life, because we emigrated to America when I was 5 from Korea, but my father grew up during the Korean War. He was, I think, 13. He would tell me stories about how he hid out in the attic of his house because the South Koreans, the good guys, were going around and grabbing anyone and giving them a gun and sending them to the front. And so he would live on a bowl of rice, maybe it's exaggerated, maybe 2 bowls of rice, but, for the whole week, and very different childhood than the one I had. And then his father was this traveling dentist through China and North Korea, and he would basically go to towns and pull out people's teeth. I don't know. So there's like all these, and that wasn't so long ago, honestly. It's not like my great-great-great-grandfather. And so there's this I thought that was kind of an interesting story of how this family changed from, 100 years ago to where it is now. But then I got to my part and I just said, I can't do this. I think it's interesting to think about, but I don't know if someday, I don't know. It's something I wrestle with all the time because it's a very different kind of work. I mean, in a way, I hide behind the superheroes because it's something I liked as a kid, but it's not necessarily reflective of what I think, per se.
You've visited Germany several times and you understand German.
Her German was very good. I understand.
Is it because you see some parallels between Korea and Germany?
No, I went to a small private school and we had only foreign language. And the German teacher was probably the best teacher I had there, and so I studied 5 or 6 years in high school, and then I won this contest. The German government would pay to bring high school students from America, so we took this test, and they picked 1 or 2 students from every state, and we got a free trip to Germany. So I lived with a German family in Nuremberg for a summer, and I worked in Hamburg at a hospital for a summer. So this is 20 years ago, so I hadn't spoken German in 20 years, so it's a shock to come here again. But surprisingly, the language has not changed too much. So no, so it's just something I studied a lot in high school and college also. Read Brecht and Kais, all the Dustbrot and yeah, I know. And I love traveling. I like meeting new people, and Germany is a very interesting country. The last time I was here was when it was before the wall came down in Berlin, so very different. And yeah.
I would like to know which character in the Batman universe is the easiest and which is the most difficult to draw for you?
The easiest character to draw is Batman because he's mostly in shadow, and so he can get very lazy. The hardest character initially was the Joker because he's a very different type of body that I'm accustomed to drawing, because he's very thin and he's got the beak nose and yeah, he's got the bug eyes, and so it was hard to kind of adjust the style to that. But once I figured it out, it was something that I love drawing over and over again. So.
How was it for you to redesign tattoo?
I didn't redesign it, so it was very easy for me. Darwin Cook, I don't know if you're familiar with his work. He's working on the Final Frontier, I think it's called now. He's a Catwoman. He's an animator from Toronto, a very talented writer, artist, and he did the redesign. And he had the style guide that he created when he created the character, like what Selena Kyle would look like, what outfit she'd wear if she went out in the town, and if she went to a party or something, and all these kind of suggestions of what she would wear. And I broke every single one of his ideas as I was doing the book, but I didn't see it until later. But he was the guy that redesigned it. I thought he did a really nice job of updating that character, because before then it was just a costume that just basically, she's nude but she's purple or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting elements.
Are there any French or other non-American authors which you have been influenced by?
Yeah, for me, a lot.
Yeah.
Everyone. Bludgeon Line, Louis Straudenheim, Frederick Peters, Christophe Glenn, John Spar, some of the French cartoonists. In Germany, on Teuchtenberger, I don't know if I have the pronunciation right. Martin Tom Dieck, Ofka, Marcus Huber, and You know, Max is here. He's one of my favorite Spanish cartoonists. My favorite Alberto Breccia from
Yeah, well, that's somebody I would thought, yeah.
So, a few.
Actually, the same guys. Actually, my list is a lot of Italian artists, surprisingly. Milo Manara, Sergio Topi. Juan Jimenez is not Italian, but a lot of guys that did a lot of the science fiction work for heavy metal, Mobius, Liberatore, I mean,
We like it all.
Well, and of course, these are you obviously like those, but which are would you the most influential for your actual work, what you say? Or is it just an amalgam and you do your own thing?
Everyone I listed, I think, is a direct influence on my work. Everyone I listed, I think, is a direct influence on my work.
Okay, right.
I don't know. There are a lot of artists I love looking at, but they don't necessarily influence my style directly. It's something that I draw more inspiration from, perhaps motivation from. When I see something that I think is beautiful, try to figure out why it works so well. What is it about it that makes its sort of emotional, I don't know, state of being or resonance or whatever. And there's a lot of stuff I like that I think looks very, very different from the kind of work I produce, but I admire a lot of different kinds of styles. And it's just, it's very important to me that I'm continually seeing different kinds of work because I don't get stuck in a rut.
What Japanese work, Japanese comics?
Some, but mostly a lot of the very well-known guys like Shiro Nazumi or Kia Asamiya.
My favorites are not very long running. Taro Yoshima, who's old, he did a lot of children's books, but he did these amazing graphic novels in the 50s about living in concentration camps in Japan. And then Mizumi I like a lot too, his Monsters.
And what about it seems that you seem to be talking about the artwork, what about the storytelling? Like for instance, before you there was Igor, and he said, when he was talking to his Japanese publishers, they said, we can have, the Japanese public can have lots of pages with no text, and they read it as text. Because they read no text can read it as in a film. And he looked at Japanese work and he thought, oh, I can use this sort of storytelling. So who would be storytellers you would have been influenced by?
Any culture?
Any, whatever. Include any sort of.
It's more abstract. It's more abstract to think of it. Because the storytelling is very instinctual. Where like with drawing style, you can look at it for surface elements that you're drawing from. Storytelling is really instinctual. It's hard to say.
And it's much more difficult
to
check out the Japanese work because it's not just that the pages are backwards, but there are things that they do that signify something that I don't know what it means. Whether it's a facial reaction or some sort of lines coming from the face or something. They have a different code that the characters behave differently.
Rest of the audience?
Ms. Lee, am I right that I recognized you in Spider-Man movie?
Yes, that was, no, that was not me. And some other Asian guy.
Can you say something about it? Did you start an acting career maybe?
No, I was in a TV show once a long time ago. It was called The Bob Show. Bob Newhart is a comedian in America. Oh, yeah. And after that experience, I said I would never ever do that. I have no ability in that. A lot of people criticize movie stars for they just look good and what did they do? They just read lines that they didn't even write. But if you
read any line,
no, I had a line, yes, and you don't know how hard it was.
Remember?
Yes, it was like, how are you guys doing? No, it was very difficult. I had to move from one piece. They put tape on the ground. That's your mark, and you have to walk to another place. that has tape on the ground, but you can't look down. And I'm like, how do you do this? How is it possible? So I have a lot of respect for like Tom Cruise and those guys now because I couldn't do it. And so I had to walk from one part of the room to another, look at a bunch of people, and they were at a round table, but they were all on one side of the table because the camera's over here, right? And so they don't want people's back showing. And so you walk up and it looks very strange, it doesn't feel normal. And I had to say, how, this line, I can't remember, how's it going, guys? And it was horrible. I was like, how? I sounded so wooden and so insincere. It was, and after that I said I would never ever do this again because it was really horrible. And to this day I've never seen the episode other than the one time. So no interest in that.
Question for Mr. Lee. If DC or Marvel Comics would give you the opportunity to work on every character you want, which one would you choose above all others and why?
Actually, I don't pick so much the characters anymore. I think there was a time when I was a fan, and when I got into business, I wanted to draw the characters I loved as a kid. And then as you get older, it becomes more of a nostalgic factor where you think about the time. It's not a direct experience that you remember. It's something that you, hey, when I was 8 or 9, I loved Batman, I loved Superman, so I'm working on the character, cool. But now it's, I find that I enjoy working with other people. It's very different from Craig. So I usually work with writers whose work I like. People, these are guys that I know and become friends with. And it's a lot of fun to collaborate, and sort of the challenges I get are in developing stories with other people, and it could be pretty much any character. I've done almost all the characters I really enjoyed as a kid. So for the most part, when I think of new projects, I think of who I'm going to work with on that project.
What I would like to know is what's your status in DC now? Because you sold then your studio,
yes,
but you're still the president of the studio.
Yes.
And on the other hand, you are an artist for hire for the DC characters.
No, I'm exclusive to DC, so I just work on projects for DC.
So that's your status. You don't have to.
So you have insurance.
You don't have
Yes.
input in things happening at the Wildstorm things.
Yes. Still run the creative end of Wildstorm, so that means meeting with writers and artists and developing new projects. We have an editorial team that maintains and runs that schedule, so I'm not involved so much with that. And then I get the freedom to work on whatever creative projects moves me. That was actually the quote I call it, Levis gave me. It's like, we should work on the things that move you. And so it's a little, it's intimidating to have that kind of, to be given that kind of freedom. For the most part, people, when they have a job, are told, this is what you do, and this is what you do next year. And so for a long time, I did nothing. That's what moved me. And, but more recently, I wanted to get back and draw more. And I think after I do the Superman stuff, there'll be a couple other projects that I'm going to do. I'm working with Jeff Loeb again on Batman, but then there's some new characters, new concepts I want to put out there. So I do have kind of the best of both worlds. I can do the stuff on characters that I used to love as a kid, and also develop new ideas and publish them through Wildstorm.
Will there be the graphic novel written by Alan Moore? You talked about for several years now.
I don't know. The last I heard, he had only written 3 pages of it. I mean, it's literally 12, 15 pages of text. So dense. But he and I will definitely do something. It's something we've talked about for a long time. It's just a matter of finding. He's very busy with all the ABC books he's doing for us.
Killing the ABC universe.
Yes.
So I have a question for Craig. Your book is a big success, not only in the USA, but in France, and I think in the Netherlands also, and in Germany. The first day it was great. And how do you explain the success? Why do you think your book has so many fans?
You mean in Europe or anywhere?
Yeah,
No idea. my big fear while working on the book is that people wouldn't be able to identify with it because I came from such a sheltered upbringing, sheltered even for, you know, Americans. This tiny, tiny rural town and very religious family, and we're living in like a post-Christian sort of world, you know, and thinking it's been quite the opposite that, like, you know, I hear from people of all ages and from all different countries that have really, you know, I mean, there are universal themes, you know, first love, coming of age, family and religion, et cetera. I think it's kind of fascinating now with what's going on politically, with all, you know, getting to observe a sneak peek of fundamentalism in America, perhaps. But I think it's all these small things, these small mundane human details that people connect with or something like that.
Were there elements in the book that you found were untranslatable in different cultures?
Well, I mean, a lot of people like talk about in Europe, say like, oh, it's really weird in America how attached they are to religion, still to Christianity, you know, or we're very Catholic in this country in France, but we're very liberal about it. We're not like, you know, as right-wing fundamentalist as Americans. That's very fascinating to people, especially now.
It's the same in Germany. So sorry, but you're in
Bavaria.
It's the same here. I mean, religion. No, but I want to know: is it difficult to show people other sides from you?
Difficult to show what?
Other sides of you. Maybe they will get to know you better. Is it too much? Do you spit your guts out?
No, I really haven't shown anything yet. I think that'll take a whole lifetime. Yeah, just started peeling away the layers.
How did your family and friends react on maybe being in the book or finding situations?
Well, my brother loves the book. He really, really identifies with it. And working on the book brought us closer together because we were always talking about our childhoods and being more interested in real life time, what was going on in each other's lives. My parents hated it. And I sent them the book. I didn't talk about the book before it was published. We haven't had that close of a relationship anyway, but I was, you know, scared all along, like if they saw it, they would stop me somehow from publishing it. So after it was printed, as soon as it came off the press, I mailed them a copy. And a couple of weeks went by and I called them a couple times, and like the next time I called them, I'm like, have you gotten the book yet? I sent it. And they're like, oh yeah, we got it. And they're just quiet, like at this Midwestern style, yup, we got the book. And I'm like, well, what do you think of it? And they're like, oh, we're still reading it. That was all they said the first time. And then I went back home to visit my family. And I had to share a 6-hour car drive with them from Minneapolis to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Just me and my 2 parents. And my dad started going on about how, oh, you don't know anything about how rough life can be, you know, you think your childhood was hard. I had a really hard childhood, blah, blah, blah. It's like, wait a moment, is this about the book? He's like, of course it's about the book. What makes you think your childhood was so hard or traumatic? And I'm like, oh, I don't think my childhood was that traumatic. I'm like, I don't think it was any more traumatic than anybody's childhood. And he said, well, what right do you have then to make these, you know, these real private things public? What right do you have to tell a story? And I'm like, well, you know, because they happen. That's reason enough. They happen, so I'm sharing them. And he said, well, there's plenty of things that have happened to me that I've never told anyone, not even your mother. And I said, well, why haven't you told your mom, Dad? And he said, because it's between me and the Lord. Implying that, yeah, you weren't supposed to share these things. But I tried to tell him, like, well, you know, I think it's good for people to communicate these things. I'm not saying my life is special by telling these stories. I'm saying that everybody has these stories, and communication is part of that sharing. But then they're also really upset about what they thought it said religiously as a rejection of Christianity. And they started going on about how I was going to be going to hell. So I'm getting ready for that. But I said, well, you know, that's okay because I don't believe in hell. And they started laughing. well, if you don't believe in hell, then you can't believe in heaven either. And I said, yeah, that's true, I don't believe in heaven either. And then they started almost crying. And my mom got really serious, and she's like, well, if you don't believe in heaven, you know, what do what do you have hope for? What is there hope for? And it was at that moment that I realized just how sad a person my mom is and how she really clings onto her faith as just to give her some sort of support in this world. She's had, had a hard life and is not happy. And I said, well, I find hope in the moment, I find hope in this world. I mean, it's an awful, terrible, fucked up world, but it's very beautiful too, and there's so much beauty, really. So that's where I'm looking for hope.
Next hand, but that's why the question better be important.
So something totally different. How fast do you draw a page or a book, like 21 pages? Both of you?
I was doing 2 pages a day with blankets, pencils, and inks, but it was all written ahead of time, so.
So it takes a year for you to do a book?
No, it takes me forever. Because I don't get paid. So I was doing it for free, the entire book for free. So, there'd be 3 months I didn't touch the book because I was doing other projects to pay the bills. It was a hobby more so. Plus I was supporting other people, and I had a really wacky, messed up life, living the poor lifestyle in America, in welfare housing with crazy drug addicts and crazy people everywhere, and guns in America. So I was really slow. But when I was actually working, it was fast. But there were so many distractions.
But has it to be like this? Because when you have to have so much time for doing a project if it's 600 pages long. So that's okay.
Yeah. Like that again. Of course, I did a travelogue comic while traveling. It took about 2 months to draw like 220 pages. So, but it's not as structured, obviously. It's just looking it out.
I try to do a page a day. I'm lucky if I can do a page a day, but some days are harder than others.
But you're consistent, though.
I try. It has
so
to
you
be.
can do a page for a year, right?
No, it's actually, there's a lot of monotony in drawing a page a day. Being very regular is very, very difficult. So I would, in some ways, I don't plan on doing it. Mathematically, if I just did a page a day, my life would be perfect. 22 pages, I'd have 8-9 days off a month. But that makes too much sense. So what I do is I do nothing. I'm like, I'm here at the show. I do nothing for 8-9 days, la 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 la, the grasshopper. And then the deadline moves, and I basically just draw like all the time, sometimes 19-20 hours a day. I could do like 2 pages a day if I just draw all the time, and then I make my deadline, I collapse, I sleep for like 2 or 3 days. So it would make too much sense to be regular, so that's why I don't do it.
How hard are people that you see with deadlines? If you wouldn't meet them or if you don't meet them?
I don't like deadlines.
Still don't know what happens then?
No,
I mean, at your own, at Wildstorm, there are some people who don't get regular books out.
Yes, I've heard of those guys. Yeah. No, I was a freelancer when I started out. I've been an editor, a publisher. Kind of all sides of the story. I'm in a very unique kind of position within mainstream comic books because I'm not just the artist on Batman or Superman. I'm also I'm executive vice president of DC Comics, so I get to use the special bathroom. And so it is more difficult for them to fire me off a project. But that said, I do feel like, not a role model, but I have to be a good example. So if I'm making my deadlines, it's a lot easier for me to call up a guy and say, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. And if I'm not making my deadlines, it seems hypocritical for me to call up, a guy like, anyway, I was going to make a bad joke, and then I probably don't do it. So there are a lot of guys I could call up and say, hey. So I do it partly out of that because I know I have to sort of set the example.
So if you hadn't broken in the comic business, both of you, where will you be now? Will you have Mr. Dr. Lee working in a hospital, or
We'll be talking about cardiac surgery seminar at Erlangen.
Oh, I would have some real lowbrow existence, like working, back at the either hardware store, bagel shop, telemarketing, or agricultural work, or McDonald's, something like that. Recycling cans.
What would be your dream job, other than what you're doing now, if you could be anything? Not a, telemarketer. And also, what is on your tombstone when you die? I want to know. Sure.
What job?
Yeah. Dream. Yeah.
This is what I want to do.
But be honest. Start saying if
I always wanted to not have a job, to be like one of those, like either live in a houseboat with no rent or like a van, drive around in a van. So I would have been probably just like a total hippie sort of character. You guys know. This still doesn't answer the question.
I went to college. I have a degree in psychology, but I went to college to apply to medical school. My father was a doctor. This is his lifelong dream for me. That's why he left the country he was born in. He was away from his family, his relatives, to give me this opportunity. And then I said, forget it, I'm gonna draw comic books. Yes. Yes, dream job, I'm doing it. No, so I probably would have become a doctor.
Did you fight over it?
No, never. Yes, we had a lot of, there were a lot of screaming matches. There was a lot of fighting. And I knew pretty much my junior year when I was about 20 that this is not what I wanted. I didn't want to go to school anymore. I wanted to do something. I didn't want to just keep learning about other people having done things. And so I felt this great urgency to go out and be somebody, I guess, and to do something. And going to 4 more years of school and 2 or 4 more years of internship, residency. You don't really become a doctor until you're 31 or 32. And when you're 20, that seems like, an eternity. So, I made this pact with my parents that I would give it a year. In that year, I got work.
And now, is she proud of you? Does she read the comics? Is she interested?
No, they're crazy. They're crazy fans. They were not into it at first, but now they're literally my #1 fans. And so early on in my career, they're like Chinese restaurants, and they go pull over the waiter. Hey, do you know who our son is? It's a soup. And so and then they come home, and my dad brings stacks of comics. Can you find these for the nurses and doctors? And so it just, they go, hey, you're #2 on the Wizard list this month. What's going on? I'm like, all right, stop. Try to keep it separate. So they're really into it, yeah. So they're very proud. And I think, given their life experience, they just wanted to have something, future funding that was stable. They figured people will always be sick. So they wanted me to have a job where I didn't have the sort of insecurity they had in their lives. And when you think about artists, the stereotype is, they're living hand to mouth.
It's like ending up in a van or in a boat.
Yeah. They didn't want me to, but once they saw I had regular work, and not even before things really took off for me, they were very, very proud. So they were very supportive after that, after I showed them the way.
You moved to Italy 7 months ago?
Beginning of last October.
With your own family?
Yeah, so this is kind of an example. I was talking earlier about my kind of unique position within DC Wildstrom. I actually had it set up in my contract that we wanted to live abroad for a year. We wanted to subject our kids to the same experience we had when we were, my wife and I, she lived in Germany for 2 years when she was about 5. And I moved to America when I was 5. And so we had this kind of similar experience early in our lives. And I think that affected us for the better. Made us different people for it, and we're better people for it, I think. And so we want to do something similar with our kids, and they're 5, 9, 11, so we moved to Italy for a year. They're going to an Italian public school. They're learning, their Italian's much better than mine already, So So I set up in this contract that I could live abroad for a year and work for DC Comics. So it's a unique arrangement. So one of the great things about being comic book artist is there's a lot of flexibility. You don't have to be anywhere at any certain time. But because I'm in charge of Wildstorm, there were certain responsibilities I had, and so the best I could get out of it was basically a year abroad.
That you're going back to this year?
Yes.
I've got one question for the organization. What was the idea of bringing Jim Lee and Craig Thompson together in a discussion? Because I mean,
we're both Americans. Come on.
It works perfectly, but it's not obvious. I mean, it's like two very different artists. So
we don't know exactly. We were asked here if we can do this both together, and we said okay, we can do this. But why? And we talked about it, and then we thought, well, they are both very successful in their Jim Lee with the sea and Craig with his novel, and so they are. I think the main idea was to bring together two Americans from the organization.
We're all like
we had to do some input and
okay.
Where are McDonald's treats though? I thought I was promised McDonald's treats. No, I had the same thought too. It's kind of strange, but at the same time, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I only met Craig once last San Diego, and so getting to hear a little bit of his life experience is really interesting.
Why is the cover of number 6 from Ash in the German comics so normal? And in the US comics, there are 3 different covers. One is with the heroes, the second is criminals, and the third that I don't know.
Scandalism.
That's stupid. Why?
I agree. The guy sitting right next to you is the publisher of the comics in here in Germany. Honestly, it was Tony's decision.
We tried to save a couple of trees in front of us. Just a matter of people.
Das ist doch ein hübscher Gedanke, mit dem man das Gespräch beenden sollte. Wir sollen vielen Bergen oder Baum denken.
yes.
Schönen Dank.
More of other tree instead.